The diamond ring sat perfectly balanced on the velvet tray, catching the light like 1,000 frozen promises. June stepped closer to the glass case, his tailored suit whispering wealth with every movement. The boutique attendant smiled that practiced smile reserved for men whose credit cards had no limits. "Mr. Park, this one is from our Vienna collection," she said softly. "Flawless clarity, 3 carats, perfect for—" "Is that my daughter?" The words came out before he could stop them, before he could think, before he could breathe. Behind him, near the entrance, stood a woman he'd spent 5 years trying to forget, Mara. Her hair was different now, pulled back in a way that made her look older, stronger, like she'd survived something he couldn't imagine. But it was her eyes that gutted him. Those same eyes that once looked at him with love now held nothing but careful distance. And beside her, holding her hand, was a little girl. The child had his eyes, his exact eyes, dark and wide and impossibly familiar. Her skin was a beautiful blend, her curls pulled into 2 puffs that bounced as she looked around the expensive showroom with the innocent wonder only a 4-year-old could have. Mara saw him, her face drained of color. "Mummy, who's that man?" the little girl asked, her voice carrying across the marble floor. June's knees felt weak. The diamond ring blurred in his vision, everything blurred except that child, that impossible child who looked like someone had taken his features and softened them with beauty and innocence. Mara grabbed the girl's hand tighter. "No one, baby. We need to go." "Wait!" June moved without thinking, his body responding before his mind caught up. But Mara was already pulling the child toward the door, walking fast, almost running. The attendant touched his arm gently. "Mr. Park, should I wrap the ring?" He stared at the diamond. It suddenly looked obscene, a symbol of something hollow. I'll come back," he muttered, and then he was moving, pushing through the glass doors into the sole afternoon, scanning the sidewalk for any sign of them. They were gone. June stood there on the sidewalk, his heart hammering against his ribs like it was trying to escape. People walked past him, probably wondering why a man in a $15,000 suit looked like he'd just seen a ghost. But they didn't understand. They couldn't. That child had his eyes. He pulled out his phone with shaking hands and dialed the one person who always had answers. "Mr. Park?" His secretary's voice was crisp, efficient. "Is something wrong? Your fiancé called 3 times asking—" "Find someone for me," June interrupted. "Mara Johnson, my ex-wife. I need her current address, phone number, everything." There was a pause. "Sir, is this about—" "Just do it." He hung up before she could ask questions he didn't have answers to. His mind was racing backwards, tumbling through memories he'd locked away. The divorce had been 5 years ago, 5 years since he'd told Mara that his company needed him more than she did. 5 years since he'd chosen board meetings over breakfast, expansion plans over conversation, ambition over love. She'd tried to tell him something that last week. He remembered now, the memory surfacing like something from underwater. She'd said she needed to talk, that it was important. But he'd been preparing for the merger with the Chinese tech firm, the deal that would make him a billionaire before 35, and he'd told her it could wait. It never waited. By the time he came home 3 days later, her things were gone. The divorce papers were on the kitchen counter. He'd signed them without reading them, relieved in a way he'd never admitted to anyone. Marriage felt like a cage. Freedom felt like oxygen. But now, standing on this sidewalk with his phone still warm in his hand, freedom felt like falling. His phone buzzed, a text from his secretary, an address in Hongdae, a phone number, and a note. "Sir, there's a birth certificate attached. You should probably sit down." June opened the attachment with fingers that didn't feel like his own. Name, Sophia Park Johnson. Birth date, March 15th. Father, Park Jun-ho. The sidewalk tilted. He leaned against a building, the cool stone pressing against his back as the world reorganized itself around this new truth. He had a daughter. He'd had a daughter for 4 years and never known it. The wedding was in 2 weeks. Invitations had been sent to 300 people. His fiancée, Yuna, had planned every detail with the precision of a military operation. The venue was booked, the flowers were ordered, the honeymoon suite in Bali was reserved, and none of it mattered anymore. That night, June poured himself whiskey he didn't drink and watched the city lights blur through windows that cost more than most people's houses. Somewhere out there, in a neighborhood he'd probably never been to, his daughter was going to sleep. Did she ask about him? Did she wonder why she didn't have a father? Did Mara tell her anything at all? His phone rang. Yuna. "There you are," Yuna said, her voice bright and sharp. "I've been calling all day. Did you pick up the ring?" June closed his eyes. "Not yet." "Juna, the wedding is in 2 weeks. We need the rings for the photos. The photographer wants—" "I saw someone today," he interrupted. "Someone before." "Before what?" Her tone shifted, became guarded. "Before what?" "Before everything." There was a long silence. When Yuna spoke again, her voice had lost its brightness. "Is this about your ex-wife? June, we talked about this. The past is the past. You're marrying me now. You're choosing your future." But that was the problem, wasn't it? He'd been choosing his future for so long that he'd never stopped to see what he'd left behind. And what he'd left behind had his eyes and his smile and probably his stubbornness, and she didn't even know his name. "I have to go," he said quietly. "Juna!" He hung up. The next morning, June did something he hadn't done in years. He drove himself. No driver, no assistant, just him and a rented car that didn't scream wealth, heading into Hongdae with an address written on a piece of paper. The neighborhood was different from his world. Smaller buildings, street art on walls, coffee shops with handwritten menus. Real life, he thought, the kind he'd stopped living years ago.
He found the building. 3rd floor, apartment 304. He stood outside the door for 5 minutes, his hand raised to knock, frozen by a fear he'd never felt in any boardroom. The door opened anyway. Mara stood there, her eyes widening, her body already moving to close the door again. "Wait," June said, his hand catching the door. "Please, just wait." "You need to leave." Her voice was steady, but he could hear the tremor underneath. "You can't just show up here." "Is she mine?" Mara's jaw tightened. For a moment, he thought she might actually hit him. "Is she yours? You have the nerve to ask me that?" "I saw the birth certificate. I know she's mine, but I need to hear it from you." "You needed to hear it 5 years ago." Mara's eyes were burning now, all that careful distance breaking apart into something raw. "You needed to hear it when I called your office 12 times, when I showed up at your building and your secretary said you were too busy, when I sat in the hospital alone, in labor for 18 hours, and you never came, because you never knew, because you never cared enough to ask." Each word hit him like a physical blow. "I didn't know. Mara, I swear, I didn't know you were trying to tell me." "Because you never listened." Her voice cracked. "I tried to tell you that last week. I said I needed to talk. I said it was important. And you said it could wait. Remember? You said we'd talk after your big meeting, after your merger, after. Everything was always after with you." June's throat burned. "I was wrong. I was so wrong. Please, I just wanna—" "Mommy?" The small voice came from inside the apartment. June's heart stopped. Sophia appeared behind Mara's legs, wearing pajamas with stars on them, her hair pulled back in a headband, rubbing sleep from her eyes. "Mommy, who were you talking to?" Mara's entire body changed. She knelt down, her voice going soft. "Just someone from work, baby. go back to your room. I'll make breakfast in a minute." "Okay." Sophia yawned, but her eyes found June's before she turned away. There was curiosity there, recognition maybe, some instinct that couldn't be named. When she was gone, Mara stood up slowly. Her face was hard again. "You need to go." "Let me talk to her. Let me explain." "Explain what?" Mara's voice was quiet now, which was somehow worse than the anger. "That her father chose money over her before she was even born? That you signed divorce papers without asking if I was pregnant? That you've lived in luxury for 4 years while I worked 2 jobs to buy her shoes?" She shook her head. "You don't get to explain, June. You don't get to walk back into our lives because you suddenly feel guilty." "It's not guilt." The words came out broken. "It's regret. It's shame. It's realizing that I spent 5 years building an empire and I have no one to leave it to, no one who matters." Mara's eyes softened just a fraction, just enough to hurt more. "You're getting married in 2 weeks. Your secretary mentioned it when she called to verify Sophia's birth date. Build your empire, marry your fiancé, live your life. We're fine without you." "But I'm not fine without you." The confession escaped before he could stop it. "I haven't been fine since you left." "Then maybe you should have thought of that before you made me leave." She closed the door, gently, but finally, and June stood in that hallway, surrounded by the sounds of other people's normal lives, more alone than he'd ever been in his expensive penthouse. Over the next week, June became a ghost in his own life. He went through the motions, attended meetings, approved budgets, smiled at Yuna's endless wedding updates, but his mind was somewhere else. 30 blocks away, in a small apartment where his daughter colored pictures and asked questions about the world, and he wasn't there to answer any of them. He hired a private investigator, not to invade their privacy, but just to know, to understand the life he'd missed. The report came back with details that destroyed him piece by piece. Mara worked as a translator and taught English online. She made enough to get by, but barely. Sophia attended a public preschool. She loved drawing. Her favorite color was purple. She wanted to be a doctor when she grew up because she liked helping people. She asked about her father sometimes. Mara told her that he lived far away and was very busy, but that he would have loved her if he knew her. That last detail gutted him. Would have loved her, past tense, like he was dead. Maybe part of him was. The investigator included photos. Sophia at the playground, laughing on a swing. Sophia holding Mara's hand at the grocery store. Sophia sitting at a small desk in their apartment, drawing with crayons, her tongue sticking out in concentration, the exact same way June did when he was signing contracts. He stared at those photos until his eyes burned. This was what he'd traded for his billions. This laugh, this hand-holding, this concentration, this love. The wedding was in 6 days. June stood in his closet, surrounded by suits that cost more than monthly rent, and felt like the poorest man alive. His phone rang. His mother. "Juna, I need to ask you something." Her voice was serious. "Are you happy?" The question caught him off guard. "What?" "With Yuna, with this wedding. Are you happy?" He sat down on the bench in his closet, surrounded by luxury, drowning in emptiness. "I don't know what happy means anymore." His mother was quiet for a moment. "Your father and I, we pushed you so hard, maybe too hard. We wanted you to succeed, to build something that would last. But success means nothing if you're alone, Juna. Your father learned that before he died. I hope you don't learn it too late." After she hung up, June sat in that closet for an hour, thinking about his father. the man who built a fortune and died alone in a hospital because he'd been too busy for family dinners, too important for school plays, too focused on legacy to build relationships. June was becoming his father. He'd already become his father. Unless he stopped. On a Thursday afternoon, 4 days before his wedding, June did something crazy. He went to Sophia's preschool at pickup time. He didn't approach. He just watched from across the street as children poured out of the colorful building, running to parents who knelt down for hugs, who listened to excited stories about their day, who existed in their children's lives not as distant figures, but as anchors. Sophia came out holding a paper butterfly she'd made. She ran to Mara, who was waiting by the gate, and held it up proudly. "Mommy, look, we learned about metamorphosis." Mara crouched down, examining the butterfly like it was a masterpiece. "It's beautiful, baby, just like you. Miss Kim said butterflies have to break out of their cocoons to fly. She said it's hard work, but they have to do it themselves." "That's right. Did you have to break out of a cocoon, Mommy?"
Mara's smile was soft and sad. "Yeah, baby, I did, and you helped me fly." Sophia hugged her, the butterfly crinkling between them, and June felt his heart crack open completely. He'd been living in a cocoon of wealth and ambition, thinking he was safe, thinking he was successful, but he wasn't flying. He was trapped, and he'd trapped himself. That night, June asked Yuna to meet him in a quiet restaurant. She arrived in designer everything, her smile bright, her excitement about the wedding radiating off her like heat. "4 more days," she said, reaching for his hand across the table. "4 more days and we'll finally be husband and wife. Can you believe it?" June looked at her hand. The engagement ring he'd given her sparkled under the restaurant lights. It was flawless, expensive, empty. "Yuna, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why do you want to marry me?" She laughed, confused. "What kind of question is that?" "A serious one." Her smile faded. "June, what's going on? You've been distant all week. Is this about your ex-wife again? Just answer the question, please." Yuna pulled her hand back, her expression shifting to something guarded. "I love you. Isn't that enough? Do you? Or do you love what I can give you?" The silence that followed told him everything. Yuna's eyes hardened. "Everyone marries for something, June. I'm marrying you for security, for status, for a life I've always wanted. You're marrying me because I'm beautiful and accomplished and I make you look good at business dinners. Don't pretend this is some great love story. We both know what this is." He'd known, of course. On some level, he'd always known. But hearing it said out loud made it real in a way he couldn't ignore. "You're right," he said quietly. "We both know what this is, and I can't do it." Yuna's face went pale. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I'm sorry. I'm saying you deserve someone who actually loves you, and I deserve a chance to become someone who knows how to love, and neither of us will find that with each other." If this story is hitting you where it hurts, drop a comment. Tell me what you're thinking, because sometimes we need to know we're not alone in feeling what we feel. She stood up so fast her chair scraped against the floor. "You're calling off the wedding 4 days before? Do you have any idea how humiliating this is?" "I know. I'm sorry." "Sorry," her voice rose. Other diners were starting to look. "Sorry doesn't pay back the deposits. Sorry doesn't explain to 300 guests why there's no wedding. Sorry doesn't fix my reputation when everyone finds out I was left at the altar." "I'll take care of everything. The cancellations, the deposits, everything. And I'll make sure everyone knows it was my decision, not yours. You won't be the one who was left. I will be." Yuna stared at him like she'd never seen him before. "Why? Why are you doing this?" "Because I have a daughter." The words came out with a certainty he'd been missing his entire life. I have a daughter, and I've missed 4 years of her life, and I don't want to miss another day. Not for money, not for status, not for anything. Yuna shook her head slowly. You're going to regret this. I already regret everything else, June said. At least this is a regret I can fix. She left without another word. The ring stayed on the table, glittering and alone. The next morning, June went back to Mara's apartment. He knocked on the door at 8 in the morning, knowing it was too early, knowing he looked desperate, knowing he had no right to be there. Mara opened the door, already halfway through an angry sentence. June, you can't keep showing up. I called off the wedding. She stopped. Her mouth opened, then closed. I called it off, he said again, and I know that doesn't fix anything. I know it doesn't change the past 4 years, but I need you to know that I'm here because I want to be, because I need to be. Mara's eyes were wet. It's not that simple. I know. You can't just decide to be a father and expect everything to be fine. I know that too. She doesn't need money. She needs consistency. She needs someone who shows up, not just today, but tomorrow and next week and next year. She needs someone who won't disappear when things get hard or boring or inconvenient. That's what I want to be. His voice cracked. I want to show up. I want to be there for school plays and skinned knees and bad dreams and good days and every single moment in between. I want to earn the right to be called her father, not because my name is on a birth certificate, but because I'm actually there. Mara wiped her eyes. You broke me once, June. I won't let her. I won't. I swear I won't. Don't swear. Just prove it. So he did. June bought a small apartment 3 blocks from Mara's. Not a penthouse, not luxury, just a modest 2-bedroom with a window that faced their building. He set up one room as an office and left the other empty, hoping someday Sophia might want to stay there. He started showing up. Every Saturday at the park, every Tuesday at the library for story time, always at a distance at first, just present, just there, letting Sophia get used to seeing his face. After 2 weeks, Mara finally let him approach. Sophia, this is Mr. Park. He's someone who wants to get to know you. Is that okay? Sophia looked up at him with those eyes that were mirrors of his own. Hi, he said, his voice barely working. I like your butterfly shirt. Thanks. I love butterflies. They're my favorite. Mine too, I lied, and then realized it wasn't a lie anymore. Can I sit with you? She nodded. They sat on the park bench together, not quite touching, a whole world of missed time between them, but it was a start. Over the next months, June learned what it meant to be a father. It meant showing up even when he was tired. It meant reading the same book 14 times because Sophia loved the pictures. It meant learning to braid hair through YouTube videos. It meant putting her needs before his schedule, her happiness before his convenience, her life before his own. It meant becoming someone new. One evening, 6 months after that day in the ring shop, Sophia drew a picture at the small table in June's apartment. She'd started staying over on weekends, slowly, carefully, as trust built like a bridge. She held up the picture. Look what I made. It was a family, 3 figures holding hands, a woman with beautiful curly hair, a little girl in the middle, and a man on the other side. Who's that? June asked, pointing to the man, his heart in his throat. Sophia smiled. That's my daddy. That's you.
June had to turn away so she wouldn't see him cry. He'd closed billion-dollar deals without flinching. He'd fired hundreds of people without hesitation. He'd built an empire without breaking a sweat. But being called daddy by this 4-year-old girl unmade him completely. Are you okay? Sophia's small hand touched his arm. He turned back, wiping his eyes. Yeah, baby, I'm more than okay. Why are you crying? Because I'm happy. Happy crying is weird, she said seriously. Yeah, he laughed. It really is. That night, after he put Sophia to bed in the small room that was slowly becoming hers, Mara stood in the doorway of his apartment. They'd maintained careful distance, co-parenting with professional courtesy, never quite acknowledging what hung between them. She loves you, Mara said quietly. I love her. He paused. I love her so much it terrifies me. Good. Fear keeps you careful. Careful keeps her safe. Mara, He stopped, not sure what he wanted to say. Sorry? Thank you? I was an idiot? I wish I could go back? I don't know how to make up for the time I missed. You can't, she said simply, but you can show up for the time you have left. That's enough. Is it? Is it enough for you? Her eyes met his. I don't know yet. Ask me in another 6 months. So he did. He showed up. He learned her favorite songs and her least favorite foods. He learned how to soothe her nightmares and celebrate her small victories. He learned that being rich meant nothing if you had no one to share it with, and being poor in time was the only poverty that actually mattered. A year after that day in the ring shop, June stood in Sophia's preschool for her graduation ceremony. She was 5 now, about to start kindergarten, growing up so fast it hurt. She spotted him in the audience and waved enthusiastically. "That's my daddy," she told the girl next to her proudly. The title still destroyed him every time. After the ceremony, Sophia ran to him with her little diploma. "Did you see me, Daddy? Did you see me get my certificate?" "I saw everything, baby." He scooped her up, this perfect, impossible gift he'd almost missed. "I'm so proud of you." Mara appeared beside them, her smile soft and real. Over the past year, something had shifted between them. Not quite forgiveness, not quite romance, but something like understanding, something like possibility. "Mommy says we're getting ice cream. You have to come too." "If your mom says it's okay." Mara's eyes met his. "It's okay." They walked to the ice cream shop together, the 3 of them, looking like any other family. And maybe that's what they were becoming. Not the family he'd imagined in his old life, with the perfect wife and the perfect house and the perfect image, but a real family, built on second chances and hard work and showing up. That night, after ice cream and playground time and 1,000 small perfect moments, June tucked Sophia into bed in his apartment. She was staying overnight, something that had become routine, natural. "Daddy?" she said sleepily. "Yeah, baby? I'm glad you're my daddy. I'm glad I'm your daddy, too. I'm the luckiest person in the whole world. Even luckier than people who win the lottery? Even luckier than that." She yawned. "That's really lucky. Go to sleep, baby." "Okay. Love you." "Love you too. So much." He stood in her doorway after she fell asleep, watching her chest rise and fall, this miracle of a person who existed because of him and despite him. He'd almost missed this. He'd almost chosen a diamond ring and an empty marriage and a life that sparkled but meant nothing. For years, people had called him successful. They'd called him brilliant. They'd called him a self-made billionaire before 40, a titan of industry, a man who had everything. They'd been wrong. Standing in that doorway, watching his daughter sleep in an apartment that cost less than his watch, wearing sweatpants instead of designer suits, with no wedding and no fiancé and no image to maintain, June finally understood what success actually meant. It meant showing up. It meant being present. It meant choosing love over legacy, people over profits, moments over monuments. It meant being someone's daddy and having that be enough. The old June had built an empire. The new June was building a life. And for the first time in his existence, he understood which one actually mattered. He'd spent years becoming rich. He'd spent months becoming a father. And somewhere along the way, in the space between those 2 versions of himself, he'd finally become wealthy where it counted. Not in his bank account,
but in his heart. If this story moved you, it can move someone else too. Hit that like button, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and drop a comment telling me what moment hit you hardest. Sometimes the stories that break us are the ones that help us heal. Don't just watch, be part of the conversation. Subscribe so you never miss a story that matters.